Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, John Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch. Okay, Middlekauff mailbag. You guys know the drill. Hop in to the DMs at John Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. DMs wide open. This kind of a Fugazi Friday, but it's he listed it as that, but it's an NFL, really a statement. Owners of NFL teams need to foot more of the bill when it comes to stadium builds or renovations. Speaking about Clark Hunt. We've all read the Chiefs are in a dispute stemming from a vote that the Jackson County voters vetoed. I agree wholeheartedly with their decision to vote that way, especially when you have a little backstory on the team. Lamar bought the team for $25,000. His son now owns the franchise worth $4.3 billion. That's a whopping like 17% high. Their current lease is for $1.1 million per year and had $540 in revenue for the 22 season. There's a lot. Listen, my ultimate take, and I think we talked about it last time, was I have no problem when it comes to a team trying to get the taxpayer to pay for their stuff. And it's on the individuals to vote how they feel. And if they vote no, then vote no. Like, I don't feel bad that they voted no. Just like I don't feel bad, or I don't even care that much when these teams try to use the tax bill to help fund their stuff, because every human being in business would rather have someone else pay for it than themselves. Now, it's easier to get shit done when you're not cheap. I saw Joe Lacob accomplish one of the greatest feats in American business history. He got a stadium built in fucking San Francisco, which is absolutely impossible to get anything done there. But he self-financed it. He never would have got it done anywhere else. That also puts, an abnormal amount of pressure on him to keep the team good and make a lot of money. And let's face it, Clark's a little cheap. So, of course, he was going to try to go that route. But in 2024, historic inflation, the average guy, and let's face it, it is Chiefs diehard country, isn't, and I don't know the details of the tax, but is not going to be cool like doing that. Not in these economic times of when everything's really expensive. So got no problem people vetoing it. And it's on them to figure it out. But like, I don't think he's going to stop trying to utilize taxpayer money. And I think I talked about this last week, isn't like they don't own the stadium. So the city also benefits from it. That's where I think it can kind of become convoluted. If I use taxpayer money to pay for my stadium and then I get to own the stadium free and clear, like something's kind of fucked up there. But if I use taxpayer money and then we split the revenues, we're kind of partners in the venture, right? That's how I think Vegas is operating. I know that's how the 49ers operate. Now it gets more complicated when you're in business with these politicians, but if the city or the county benefits, I think you got to do it. And again, I don't know all the finances in terms of like if Taylor Swift comes to Kansas City, who keeps the gate? Heard some NBA season layout chat and wanted to give my 2 cents on how to fix their problems. Play every team 3 times, 87 games, forget the preseason. Players don't even play. Reduce playoff teams from 14 to the top 14 teams. Reduce playoff teams to 14, and the top 14 teams make it based on record and head-to-head. 3 games played should make easy math. Forget conferences. They were just made for sports leagues when all they could afford were busts and teams were 3,000 miles apart. Make the top 2 seeds receive a bye, and the first round is like a wild card best of 3. There is no urgency in the NBA, and urgency drives ratings. No one is going to watch a game if they feel like the outcome bears no weight, and that's the NBA problem. Nobody cares. The in-season tournament was a good idea, but they did it wrong. It should not count for your regular season record and should have a larger financial reward, allowing teams in the subsidiary league like the G League participate. I think the number one key to sports in the times we're living in is things have to feel important. We just have too many options. I could find a television show on 8 different streaming platforms. If you bore me, I will change the channel. It's why, like Caitlin Clark, it's not that complicated of a formula why she worked. There was a lot on the line. Her games mattered. The NCAA tournament with men's, I'm recording this before the national championship. I might even dabble on Purdue at like plus 250 underdog. But like the March Madness feels big, right? The Masters is this week. Why are people going to watch? Because it's the fucking Masters. Nobody watched last week. Why? Because it's the Valspar. Things have to matter. It's what football is running circles around baseball and basketball because all their games feel important. Even though when you take a step back, not every game is super important, but it feels that way. And that's a huge part of society. We are spread thin because of our options, and we've never had more of them. So if you don't make your inventory matter, we're not going to watch. We're simply not going to watch. And the consumer is telling you they're not watching. And that's a problem. And I don't expect Adam Silver to fix it because I think he's one of the most clueless commissioners we've ever seen. I'm a 25-year-old and I live in Indy. I'm very lucky to have the Colts right down the street from me, even though I'm a Steeler fan. Recently, I found a passion and wanted to work in the NFL. The problem is I have no college degree, no connections, and no money whatsoever. What advice would you give to someone with my specific situation wanting to work in the league? Is a degree really necessary? I don't have one, but I'll do anything to even put my foot in the door. If a team told me to sit in a room and watch paint dry all day, I would. Well, you're 25 years old. I mean, I would recommend probably trying to go to school. It is going to be hard to get your foot in the door because usually, obviously, non-football wise, the way to get your foot in the door would be ticket sales, would be marketing, and they're just not hiring a guy without a degree. Whether that's right or not, and I'm not one to act like a degree is some separating factor in terms of being intelligent or being capable, but it does matter in terms of hiring. And none of these teams are hiring people just to get their foot in the door. It's very, very difficult. And so I would just recommend big picture just for your life, just because it's probably going to be hard to break your foot in the door in the NFL, would be to go to school. It'll open your options. Statistics show. And I am not some diehard academia man here. Hey man, been following for 2 years. Fugazi is way funnier because you're mispronouncing the word to call someone a fake. It's ironic and a fantastic inside joke. Fugazi. Diggs of the Texans isn't going to hurt the Bills. He lost his speed and the ability to separate. We have the Twin Towers, Kincaid and Knox. Shakir is a monster. Love that guy, Boise State. And waiting for targets, and Cook is ready to roll as the running back slot hybrid. If we add a wide receiver or two in the draft, we won't even remember the sideline drop against KC. What is your take? I'm picking the Bills to win the division, and I'm picking the Bills to be good again. I don't think anything changed. I mean, think about last year. Everyone wrote them off. They were 6-6. Ended up winning 5 straight games and winning the division. Who are you betting on in that division? I think a huge way I look at the Bills, and I still think we have a lot to learn, but you have the second best player in the league in Josh Allen, who, unlike Lamar, is proven to be a good player in the playoffs. You have ownership over the division. The division is you can make fun of Belichick all you want. Going from Belichick to Gerard Mayo, I got news for you, is just a downgrade. There's no way around it because it's not like Gerard Mayo. Well, he's some young offensive play caller. No, he's a former linebacker. I mean, so it's like who's learned everything from Bill. So writing off the Patriots. I mean, the Jets are one of the biggest powder kegs in league history. I mean, if that thing just turns a little south, that thing could implode. And the Dolphins, I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. Never have, never will. As long as Tua Tagovailoa is your quarterback, I'm not betting on you. So if I was a Bills fan, I would be pretty confident. Now, once you get to the playoffs, like, is your team good enough to beat the Ravens, to beat the Chiefs? That's, we'll have to learn that over the course of the season, because you're going to have some guys that we're not as familiar with as starters, younger players, and just need Josh to continue being an MVP type player. The NBA season is in full swing, and when I can't get enough of the action on the court, I spice things up betting on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets. North Carolina listeners, don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in your state. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code JOHN, J-O-H-N. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHN. The crown is yours. In this vein, wondering if teams have backup draft plans when a big swing like this goes awry, and what typically it might look like. A trade down, stand pat. I've always liked this part of the NFL the most as a builder mentally. In my jobs, past and present, I love thinking or trying to think like a GM. I think what the question is asking is basically like, what if your plans don't go as planned when the draft comes? Well, if you listen to the pod I did with Veach, one thing all these teams do is your GM, your head coach, your main decision makers, maybe an owner, maybe your assistant GM, go over like 10 scenarios, whether you're drafting at 5 or whether you're drafting at 25. So you basically go over every scenario, and then you're just kind of hoping to be prepared for everything. Well, if these 5 guys, we would draft one of these 5 guys. If they're all gone, what do we do? If 3 of the 5 guys are there, what do we do? What do we do if one of the guys that we really like falls 10 spots and we can trade from 30 to 18? Would we do that? You go through all these scenarios. It's just like a test. You practice and practice for the test, and you hope. Now, I didn't study that much for tests in school, but in theory, that's what you're supposed to do. Study, just read whatever you're supposed to read, go over all the different work that was given out throughout that time, and hopefully when the test comes, you're prepared. But like most tests, there are going to be some curveballs. You either got to think on your feet, you got to take an educated guess. I think that's a huge part of the draft. If you're drafting in the top 10, only so much crazy shit can happen. If you're like the Chiefs or the Niners, like, you got to be prepared for a lot of stuff. So it does become more challenging the farther you fall in terms of the draft pick. I'm starting my sports journalism career in college and was interested in writing a story on the mystery of Jeff George. I understand he did not attain sustained success in the NFL, but from what I see, he is one of the most physically talented quarterbacks in NFL history. Nobody seems to talk about him. What do you make of that? Well, I'd have to look up the last year Jeff George played in the NFL. I mean, part of being on people's radar, as I don't want to call Jeff George a random player, but his last year legitimately in the NFL was 2004. So you're talking about a guy that is 56 years old, that has been out of the league for 20 years. Now, he was the number 1 overall pick in 1990. Obviously, it didn't go well because he only lasted 3 years on the Colts. I don't remember watching Jeff George that much as a kid. Beside, the way I would describe him would be like a less mobile Jay Cutler, huge arm, kind of prickly. I didn't feel like he got along with everybody. We talk about this a lot in the draft, right? At the quarterback position, your character, all the guys that we're talking about going pretty high are talented, right? Clearly Caleb, but Jaden, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Penix, like all these guys have physical skills. They all can throw the ball. But football IQ, football willingness to be a good teammate, willingness to learn, willingness to be coached, willingness to be pushed, willingness to push yourself, your desire to be great. Like that's separated a lot of guys over the years. Some guys don't have the physical capability. Some guys are just inaccurate. Nothing you can do about it, right? And then some guys just are missing something. And it does feel that he was just missing something. Love your pod. I prefer football over basketball nowadays easy. But I'm interested on your view on basketball in the NBA. The NBA has 3 times as many Instagram followers as the NFL. I'm sure similar on other platforms too, have not checked. For kids, basketball is a much easier sport to pick up, be good at, and learn, similar to soccer in that way. But it still pales in viewership to the American football, which is obviously more of a niche sport that can't be properly played unless you're on the field 11 on 11. So why isn't basketball closer to what soccer is globally? Why couldn't it be? Does it all come down to poor marketing and the NBA missing an opportunity? Well, the NBA was dramatically more popular in this country a decade ago. The numbers speak for themselves. The NBA had 2 things I think that really worked against them: tanking and load management. There are some other variables, people bring in politics or whatever, but I just think specifically teams did not try consistently, and it wasn't just one. A ton of teams tanked, and the NBA literally changed the rules to try to take it out of the game a little bit. And load management is still a major problem in the NBA. So if the talent doesn't care, why should the consumer? And this is what football has. Like, no one takes off a game if they can play, partly because you only get so many of them. So Adam Silver, to me, is not the guy to fix the problem. He was a big reason for creating the problem. Now, it wasn't his idea to tank or load management, but he's not a disciplinarian. He's the opposite of David Stern, who easily is one of the great sport leaders of my lifetime. In the 90s, the NBA was arguably the biggest sport in America, led by Michael Jordan. And a big reason because David Stern, the way he marketed. Now, he drove a hard line. Like, he would never have allowed this shit. And the media loves Adam Silver. Why? Nice guy, texts them all back. Very, it feels like pro player. It's weird. Like, the media is very pro player because it feels like, anti-management, anti-ownership, which, again, you're talking, the average salary in the NBA is $8 million. You're not rooting for the local 303 plumber here, right? I mean, you got Bradley Beal making $250 million. He's average at best. So I think the NBA has a financial problem. Way too many guys get paid that are not good enough. Like, I can't be paying you $40 million a year if you're not a top 10 player. It does not add up. Or you're not with another top 10 player. There are so many guys in the NBA making an astronomical money that you would send a limo to the hotel to pick them up if the game mattered. And that's another problem. The games just don't matter. So they used to feel big. I grew up watching the NBA. I just turn on some random games. They don't feel that important anymore. And I don't know how you get that back. But globally, it's the NBA by far is the best league for basketball in the world. I mean, all the top European players play here and make a shitload of money here. Jokic, Luka, Giannis. So from a global standpoint, financially, this is where and the players, if you're a player, your salaries are, once you sign that contract, whether the television ratings are high or low, if you're that, they don't even care. Now it could have dramatic ramifications in the future. And the NFL players, whether the television ratings are high or low, do I think they talk about it a lot? No. I mean, you're just trying to make as much money possible and win. So, it's when you're in it, the conversations we have on the outside are a lot different than, I wouldn't blame Bradley Beal for going, God, this is the best league, most popular league of all time. He's made $450 million. Hasn't won a meaningful game in 8 years. Vikings fan here, and was wondering your thoughts on which quarterback they should get. If we trade up to 3 and get JJ McCarthy, I might lose my mind. Thanks, and keep killing it. I guess when you say lose your mind, you mean not be happy. One thing I said earlier is maybe you just stay at 11 and draft Penix. And then you use pick 23 on just another really good player. What if you do that? What if you don't trade 11, 23, next year's 1 to get JJ McCarthy? And like I said, anytime that you keep hitting me over the head with this is who the team is going to draft, and that team is not drafting super high, you got to throw up a red flag, because historically that would say they're trying to throw you off the scent. They're trying to lead you down the wrong path, almost like just to like set you up, right? So you think everything's cool, then all of a sudden it's the Joe Pesci meme where the mobsters are right behind him and they're killing him. Right, a little sneak attack. So anytime things are so obvious, just your shit detector should go up, and mine definitely is. I love your takes on not only sports but business and life. I'm a full-time chef, but also have a second job as a travel agent because I love to travel. Helping people and the secondary income is helpful in our household. You have mentioned possibly going to Costa Rica with your girlfriend, and I wanted to see if I could plan and book your vacation. My expert travel planning and booking services are 100% fee-free. I will work hard to provide you with the best vacation possible. I'm at your service. Okay, last question. Was watching your mailbag pod on YouTube and heard you mention wanting to watch the British Open in St. Andrews. I'm a student here at the University of St. Andrews, and we hosted the Open just before I arrived the first year in the summer of 2022. I remember that. A guy named Cameron Smith won. I couldn't find anything online about the next Open will be hosted by the St. Andrews, but I recommend coming to play the golf course and the old course when you get a chance. I've always been a fan of golf, and it's a really magical experience playing the old course. I think typically they go to St. Andrews every 5 years, and it got pushed back because of obviously 2020. It got canceled, and then it got pushed back a year. So it should be either. I think maybe they'll just keep it, but the even year might be 2030, but it usually rotates every 5 years. That's why when you look at previous champions like 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, that's when they play, which is smart. I mean, I've watched a lot of YouTubes of like Bob Does Sports and guys like that play, and it looks pretty cool. Now, I was playing golf last week in like 40-mile-an-hour winds. Playing golf in super windy conditions is not that fun. But if you are going to play golf in super windy conditions, you might as well be, at the old course drinking a pint of Guinness and having a good time.